Namaste, beautiful souls. Thank you for watching and welcome. I'm Gabrielle, retired medium in Germany, and I like to share some of my otherworldly experiences and insights. And today I'm again with Hans, who will provide the questions and ask questions for this Q&A. So be welcome, fasten your seatbelts. We're going right into it.
Hello, Gabriele. First question. How does time really work? As it is said that our human understanding of time, being perceived as linear, like past, present, and future, is incorrect?
Well, that is the usual thinking we are brought up with, thinking it is linear. And that is because our brain is linear as well. We're in duality. It's going from one pole to the other and divides and separates into past, present, and future. As I found out via QHHT hypnosis sessions, when you kind of lead a client back in trance into other lifetimes, what shows up is not from birth through middle age to old age. The essence of a life is showing up with important moments that could be in what we call the past as a young kid, or the present as the now person, or even as the so-called future. So that changed my understanding of time a lot. And as the Elohim and the spirit world and spirit guides are beyond or outside of our time measuring, it's even said in the Bible that 1,000 years to God or the divine are just like the twinkling of an eye. So they have a different time. They're not even measuring that, I think, with our years and 10,000 years and stuff like that. They are always in the here and now, and to them it's always here and now. And they come from oneness, from unity consciousness, while our perception still works on the separation into duality. Like, is it either this or that? To them, it is both, nearly all the time. And they say the only real time is here and now, being fully, totally, 100% present.
What about past and future lives?
Well, they are in truth parallel, happening right here and now at the same so-called time as we understand time, still that way in linear fashion. And they're only differentiated in frequency. It is like in music, in the octave, you have all the tones stacked upon each other, and they are only different in frequency, so that the next tone is a little bit higher. And so it works in frequency as well. All our past lives and our future lives are already here, right and now, in the presence. But if we would perceive that all at once, we would go crazy. That's why we have these blinders and limitations to enable us to navigate our lives here. It's part of the construct of three-dimensionality, already entering fourth dimension that is changing. So there are, in truth, no real past or future lives. They're all happening at the same time, right here and now, all at once. But we have filters in our perception because we would go crazy if we would perceive everything all at once.
But do other realities or parallel realities exist?
Yes, they do exist, and lots of them.
How do other new parallel realities and timelines start and why?
You know, if you are at a bifurcation or a crossroads in your life experience, you, with your linear perception of time and the mind and linear thinking, you invest into one solution. Should I go and move to that town and take a new job? Or you also invest energy into the other solution, like, should I stay here and not move and not change my job? So if you choose for moving and getting a new job, what happens with the energy you invested in the other kind of way or solution? You also thought about that and had your feelings, so you invested energy, and that is creation. So in a moment of decision, you are creating kind of two or sometimes three new timelines. And if you choose and decide for one, the other two have to play out in a parallel reality, in another world, maybe, living out the possibility of that kind of train of thought that you started.
People die. Where do people go that vanish from Earth? Are they going through portals? Where to? And can they come back?
That's an interesting question. um, you know, besides normal death or being murdered or something like that, or leaving your life and starting under a new name, another new life, because your old life you did not want any longer, that happens as well. There are portals in the air, on the ground, and beneath the oceans or in the water. And sometimes people stumble into a portal right at the moment when they are thinking about going a different way. Like I explained before about this, how you create a new timeline and another parallel life. So if they stumble with this frequency and vibration of thought and emotion to maybe change their life and never go home again or do something else, into a portal, of course, their brought in energy will bring them into a parallel reality where they live out that possibility. Um, there are a lot of people vanishing in United States national parks, and there are portals as well in deep nature and forest, and it can happen that people stumble into a portal, not knowing, not understanding, and they are not dying, but they find themselves in a parallel or different reality where they carry on living. Some even come back. There is a famous case, I don't remember the name, of a guy who went out skiing on some lake, and he never came home again and vanished. And when the people and the police searched for him, they found his tracks on the ice of the frozen lake, in the middle of the lake, and then they stopped. So he went into a portal there, and a few years later, I think, suddenly he came back. He was found in another location, miles away from where he vanished and where he lived, and he had no remembrance For him, it was like yesterday I went out skiing and now suddenly I'm in this different town and have to arrange how to get home. He had no memory of where he had been, how long he had been away, and stuff like that. So portals are a factor that has to come out more, because in the invisible there is much more going on than we perceive with our normal five senses, and have no explanation for that. But the secret military programs, black programs, they already work with portal technology. They know how to create a portal besides the natural existing portals on this planet. So I think sooner or later, better sooner, more information about that will come out.
A different question. Do souls have different values or qualities?
That is difficult to answer because it is yes and no at the same time, coming kind of from the unity consciousness or oneness perspective. All souls are innate with the same potentials. So we're all built the same in the invisible kind of soul matrix we carry. But what we take from our treasure box of potentials and gifts and talents and bring into manifestation by practicing and living that, that is up to the person itself, what it takes from its kind of soul treasure it's bringing in. But it's always the whole package, as we are said to be a fractal of source, all that is. And a fractal is containing everything that source is and contains as possibilities. But if you pick out to be a marathon runner instead of being a painter, then of course you are nurturing this one talent or gift, and you don't focus on the other. That's why we are all unique and different, and have to be, because every one of us is carrying a piece of the puzzle, and we need to come together and put all our puzzle pieces together to get the whole truth and the whole big picture. So, well, that's it more or less. I hope that's helping.
I hope so. Do some souls use the earth for a lifetime of holidays?
Yes, they do. There are also some souls that come here with a different purpose, that come from other star systems, and some even experience life on Earth as the hardest school, so to say, as kind of a punishment. But it's up to us what we make of it. The glass of water might be half empty to one and half full for another one. So that's what I wanted to add to that.
How can we overcome the burden of karma?
Well, you create karma nearly all the time. That's within the 3D construct. If you become aware of that, this is the law of cause and effect. Of course, you can start to work on what you are causing in your surroundings for other people and for yourself, and focus more on the positive to create positive things, outcomes, situations, relationships. If you don't care about that and you're just in your kind of egotistical service to self mode, and it's all about you all the time, and the others are just side work or by work, well, then of course you will create more karma, because we are all one, not only quantumly entangled. Every ancient text tells you about oneness and that we are one. So there is not really separation between you, Hans, and me. If I am treating you bad, I'm treating myself bad. And by that, you can see someone who's yelling with other people and always angry, they are treating themselves bad. That's why they treat others bad as well, like in the mirror function. So, luckily, at the end of a great cycle, with the acceleration in our time measurement, we get the chance to burn a lot of the old karma and release that. You can also release that by using the wonderful Hawaiian forgiveness ritual of Ho'oponopono. And it's more about not only forgiving the other one that was involved in a situation with you, it is also about forgiving yourself, which is much more important. Because in my experience with deceased loved ones that wanted to give a message to one of their relatives still alive on this side, very often they came and asked for forgiveness. And that is kind of a mechanism. If the other one forgives them, then they are able, as if they got the allowance from that person they treated maybe badly, to forgive themselves. And so it's much more about forgiving yourself, accepting you the way you are. There is nothing bad about some negative traits. We all have them. But if you fight against them, you feed them with energy and they become stronger and grow bigger. So you need at least to become neutral and accept them. And next step is lovingly accept them and forgive yourself, your faults, your flaws, whatever, to become released of this shame and guilt programming that's running within us, and to become so light that we really can ascend, because it's it's the higher frequency vibrations of neutrality and everything above, joy and kindness and whatever, that kind of graduates us for ascension, while the low frequencies like anger, hate, shame, guilt, judgment, they are more heavyweight and they keep us down.
So next, we have a question from our community, and that is Denise. She has a question, I guess. She wants to ask it to Elohim.
Yes, because I cannot answer that question, so I go into my channeling mode. Just a moment. We are the Elohim, the breath of God, the form-giving forces, in service to the one infinite creator source, in service to all. We are happy for this opportunity to help you with answers and energy transmission, and we're ready to receive the questions.
Denise asks, are the chakras governed by the Elohim or the archangels?
This is more or less a question still intellectually based, because it's separating using the duality, limited ego mind and intellect, and dividing the archangels from the Elohim. From our perspective of oneness, we can only answer, which you might not understand, and we have to explain further about that. It is both, as it is mostly both, because in duality it is not either this or that, it is as well as and both. You see, we announce ourselves as the form-giving forces. What do you think that is expressing? We are an aspect of the divine, non-physical and formless, more an energy of force, and we give form. So we created the archangels and the classes of angels, and we are not separated from them. So your question is, from our viewpoint, not quite correct, because, you know, you yourself are made up part from your father and your mother, and your genetics carry the information of your ancestry line, your forefathers and ancestors. And would you say, with your three-dimensional mind, that you are separate from your grandpa or your father? You carry their genetics within you. So you are as well your father and your mother and your ancestors. So the archangels are part of the Elohim as well, because we created them or helped to give form. And they are non-physical as well, and they only take form sometimes, if needed and necessary, in lower dimensions. And you can associate them with the chakra system as the four cardinal angels, archangels like Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Uriel are not only associated with the cardinal directions forming a cross, and all your sacred sites are oriented with that cardinal cross of north and south and east and west. The archangels are also connected to the chakra system, the colors that form the themes of the chakras, the topics or life lessons that are connected to the colors, and they are also governing the four cardinal elements in your physical 3D world that you know as earth, water, fire, and air. So they're also governing the astrological signs belonging to the element water, fire, air, and earth. So in your limited sense of understanding, you can say, yes, the archangels govern the chakra system, but on the long run, or with the longer hand behind the archangels, are the creators, the logoi, and us, the form-giving forces from higher dimensions, who worked on behalf of Source, all that is, to create all that you experience and perceive. We hope this answers the question.
Denise follows commenting, I believe that I am part of the next massive awakening and that I will have all the abilities that the Elohim told me about in my dreams and visions. Is that the case?
We need to correct again some of the things you state in your question. When you go into dream state, you have to pass through other dimensions, through the lower astral as well. And there a lot of trickster energies and also the negative forces and entities are awaiting you, and they are trying to get you off from your path or to infiltrate your system and derail you or hinder and block you with false information. So you really have to use your discernment. If you come back from a dream with an information, does that really resonate in your heart and with your feelings and emotions with you? Or do you only intellectually like the thought of being someone special who is chosen for this or that evolvement? You see, the ego is docked onto your intellect mind, your intellectual ego mind. And the ego is what you need to bring you to the border, so to speak. But it cannot enter into the next higher dimension because it is three-dimensional and cannot enter, work, or function in the fourth dimension. So you have to leave it like an old jacket at the border and cross over with your soul potential. Of course, the ego knows about that, and it is based on fear. It is fearing its own death at the point where you cross the line to the next dimension. So, of course, it will do anything to not die and prevent you from crossing the line. And of course, the ego always wants to be someone special. It's not content with having just a simple potato digging life incarnation. So you have to be aware of that and check on your ego mind and your thoughts and your intellectual workings. Are you told things by visions or dreams that please your ego? Or is it really resonating deep within you in your heart? Of course, there is a mass awakening coming soon because the energies in your whole solar system working on your consciousness and DNA are amping up, more or less graduating for the next step. And it is questionable whether you get all the abilities you think you were told to get, because we already heard Gabrielle explain before, truly, that you have the whole potential of Source, but you cannot embody all potentials at once. So you will always go with a potential, a talent, or a gift that matches your own frequency. Just a little example. The one you call Wayne Dyer, who was well known in meditation and spiritual and esoteric context, he once experienced during meditation that he was levitating. And then a thought crossed his mind, and he thought, oh, I can show this at the Tonight Show. And boom, he was back on the ground, because that is a selfish ego thought. If you do not use your potential, your abilities for the good of all, and follow by that the law of one in serving to others or service to all, and you only follow service to self, what is good for you, and you don't care about the others, you don't even want to know about the others, and all your questions are only about you, well, how will you then graduate for the next level that kind of differentiates between who chooses service to self and who chooses service to others, service to all. So you will always, in the next amping up of energy, causing a mass awakening, only be granted and graduate for the abilities you match the frequency. If you have done your inner work of self-reflection and honest questioning your own motives and honest, deep thinking and digging deep about what are the programs running within you, making you want to be someone special. And with that, if we would grant, or a talent would be, an ability would be granted to a person with that mindset, that person will certainly and surely abuse the potential, and this will not be allowed.
Denise further asks, they told her that she is or were Horus, the third eye. Is that the case?
There is some confusion in this question. Again, we have to correct that, because Horus was seen in ancient Egypt as the son of Isis and Osiris, and he was fighting with his uncle Seth, the brother of Osiris, who killed Osiris over Egypt. So fighting over the power to rule Egypt with his uncle, the legend has it, quite truly, that he lost his left eye in the fight. And the left eye stands for the moon and the divine feminine in its original meaning and sense, and is governed and ruled by the right brain half, which is the intuitive, feminine, holistic one. So that can tell you a lot, that he lost his kind of divine eye and an access to divine feminine by losing the left eye. And it is wrongly associated with the third eye. It's got nothing to do with that, although some of your spiritual systems, infiltrated and distorted, associate the third eye with the eye of Horus, which is not true from our point of view. So the third eye is the point in your chakra system which enables the etheric view, so to speak. And usually the whole chakra system works like a ladder. You have to start with the first rung, which is the root chakra, and then climb the next rung, the sacral chakra and the solar plexus, and the path of the left hand, the negative black magic path, so to speak, known in Asian tradition, is bypassing the heart chakra with the color green and associated Archangel Raphael for healing with it, and tries to jump directly to the higher chakras as the throat chakra or the third eye and the crown chakra. But without love and compassion, the theme of the heart chakra, you will abuse the other higher chakras and they will not function and work properly because you missed the step of the heart chakra. And that is exactly where humanity is right now, to work on the heart chakra and evolve in love and compassion, which is uniting logic and love, and not the rational logic you use in your limited, bipolar, or two-sided dual intellect. It is the logic of the Logos, the source, the oneness, the unity consciousness. And if you do not do that step in your heart to grow compassion, then you will not become wise, because wisdom is the unison of divine logic and love.
Elohim, I asked the internet what are the most pressing questions. Those are in the search engines. And these are the following questions people have today in society. How can we manage rising costs and make living more affordable?
You have, in the phase you are right now in, at the end of a great cycle, graduating for the next evolutionary step. Of course, also the so-called negative forces who are resisting, and they are still using old energy to make money, and it's only always all about money. So you get a gist of that and experience that as high cost living and not having enough money. But you know, from our higher perspective, that kind of forces you, or let's phrase it more positively, it asks you to also use and grow discernment. What is really necessary? What do you really need? You know, in ancient times, a person had maybe 2,000 items. You nowadays have 20,000 items that turn out to be more a weight than serving your liberation. So a lot of your possessments are not really necessary from the perspective of your soul and the spirit world. So you are asked to differentiate and maybe minimalize a little bit, because you are overwhelmed by too much stuff in the material and also in the mind, body, spirit complex, in your intellect, in your knowledge, your thought and your thinking processes, and you're still underestimating the strong force of vibrational energy, aka your feelings and emotions. And emotion is meaning energy in motion. It's about what you feel, and you have to work on your feelings to be content with what you have. Because if you think you don't have enough, then you're kind of implying that God or Source made a mistake, and because of that, you don't have enough. So by that, you're kind of questioning the divine order. You always get what you really need and what is necessary for your soul development on your soul path, your journey through the different densities, dimensions. And you are meant to leave third dimension and to enter into fourth and fifth and so on, to grow by learning via experience. So maybe a little bit of minimalizing could help, and learning to discern and focus on what is really necessary. You might think you want a new house, a new car, or that certain blue couch you saw in the furniture store, but you do not really need that for progress on your soul path.
How can we reduce crime and ensure safety in cities?
Well, there was an experiment done years ago where a Buddhist monk group traveled through the US and stationed and stayed in certain cities, just being there for a few days or a week and meditating together with the intent and focus on creating peace, happiness, safeness, and reducing crime. And it worked because statistically, the statistics showed after their meditation, when they went on to the next town, the criminality rates sank. So that is what you can do. Even better if you do it together with others. Maybe you and your partner, you and a friend are like-minded. Even if only to sit together and meditate for 5 or 10 minutes together with that intent and that focus to create safety for all and to reduce the criminality, then you are fulfilling what Yeshua told you from Christ consciousness knowledge, where 2 or 3 are together in my name, and it's not about the name, it's about the energy, the vibration and frequency of Christ consciousness and service to others, because with that meditation, you want to serve all your fellow souls, your fellow humans, to be safer in their surroundings. If you come together like that, Yeshua said, I am always in your middle. And then you have the input of the divine force via the Christ consciousness within that coming together and meditating together.
What can be done to address climate change and natural disasters?
What you are told about climate is very distorted from our perspective, because your Earth is going through cycles and is changing in temperature and climate, has done so and will do so in the future, because Earth is a living conscious being that is also growing and learning and graduating. So if you reduce in your personal life the emissions that are furthering negative climate changes, that's the part you can do. That is your part. The more people doing that, of course, they accumulate the energy for not going into some unwanted and artificially created changes of the climate on your planet. Can you please repeat the second part of the question?
What about natural disasters? How can we address natural disasters?
Natural disasters, as you call them, can be artificially created by secret technology that can cause earthquakes, volcanic activity, hurricanes, and floods, and is in possession of your negative military branches all over the world. And as the earth is a living being, she is also reacting to the emotions the people produce living on her surface. It is like if you eat bad, unhealthy stuff, then you get a pimple. That is the mechanism of your body cleaning out something that is not fruitful for the inner workings of your physical system. The Earth as a planet is doing the same. So some earthquakes and what you call natural catastrophes are caused by yourself and the people living in that region. Maybe having a mindset very egotistical or still in survival mode, only about themselves, not caring about the others, and by that, more or less following the path, the law of one names service to self instead of following the path service to others and service to all. With your mindset, you create emotions. Your thoughts create emotion, and emotions are the charging energy in the creative process. So if you're angry, greedy, jealous, or just in survival mode, and you're in lack and needy, these emotions affect Mother Earth. And there are certain regions that are kept on purpose in lack. People are poor there and they have a hard time to kind of come out of survival mode. So it is more or less on purpose that they are held in a low vibrational frequency, which they emit all the time, and that affects Mother Earth. And as you, as a human being, are under a purge, a cleansing, a cleaning of the house at the end of the great cycle where you are right now, as the Hindu and Mayan calendar names it, leaving the dark ages and going towards, evolving towards the golden age, including evolving into higher frequencies, higher states of moral and ethics. It's not even the fault of the people living there. If they would have better circumstances, they would not emit negative emotions. And we can tell you there is enough for everyone on this planet. It's about the distribution of it. There's only a small percentage that own nearly everything and have the power, but that will change soon because that is old energy, that is service to self. And by that, they keep certain regions and populations in poverty and create by that regions that are in danger to have these kind of catastrophic events happening, like volcanic activity or earthquakes and flooding or storms.
How should schools handle their funding, their curriculum, and cultural issues?
Education is one of the most important topics and themes on your planet because your children are your future. With what you feed and impregnate them from young age on will make them, as a grown-up or adult, behaving in a special way. So your whole educational system all over the world is, of course, in the hands of the few behind the scenes, governing in their own selfish interest. You are not taught the truth, and you have to search, question, and research for that yourself from a certain age, when you're able to understand how research is working and you understand that you have to use different sources and not only one to get a bigger picture about what is really going on. So the best thing you could do is support your children by teaching them meditation, going within and going inside. That will teach them a lot and make them more open to the inner world, the inner moral and ethics. And the funding, of course, is also working along the lines of your governments who are governed from forces behind the scenes. So a school has to carefully choose which funding to accept and which to not. But as you are, as we already mentioned several times, at the end of a great cycle where big change is upon you, these fundings come from the, so to speak, 1% that is behind the scenes ruling and governing. And that has to change and will change. And they cut off in the last times a lot of their funding and funded only what was in their selfish interest.
Many ask, why is there suffering and evil in the world?
That is such an old hat question. If you understand that you are part of a bigger system, that the soul has you and you are like the hammer in the hand of someone, constructing something or destructing something, you are like the hammer. And you ask what the hand and maybe the head and the person that is using the hammer has on their mind. Well, you have, before your birth, planned this incarnation, pre-birth, and your soul chose certain experiences. You might be afraid of hardship as a person, an ego. That is understandable, and we do not judge that because that's natural. But your soul has other plans. It wants to grow and learn, and you learn by experience. And you learn the most when it is aching, because then you stop and ask for what is the cause or the reason of that. Why is that happening? How does this make sense? And then you come closer to exercising your free will to choose whether you go into an experience and come out of it with the choosing of suffering and hurt and hardship, or whether you come out of a hard experience with learned essence and growth that enables you to grow even further and direct you into a positive direction. You see, the soul is choosing before birth some special points on your life path. But how you deal with what you experience is up to you. That is your freedom. You can go about an experience kicking and screaming and yelling and blaming everyone else, or even hitting them and punching them in the nose because you think they are the villains, they created that. You created as a soul your life path. Or you can also go about it, oh, what does that want to teach me? And with that question, you open up more of the positive path, and then you are ready to receive for what it will serve you, and then you can get along with even hardship and different stuff and different difficult experiences much easier and much better. Remember the story of Job in the Bible. He never lost his trust into the divine, although he went through a lot of hardship. And as the story goes, God even allowed Satan to test Job whether he would fall from his faith and trust. And he did not. Job stayed true to what he felt and resonated with as true, coming from his own soul, being in his own heart as a frequency, vibration, emotion, resonance with the beauty, the good, the positive of the duality aspect, the duality world and duality life. It's up to you which way you choose, left or right, good or bad, without judgment, because experiences are just experiences. They teach you, and if you are willing to learn, then you can grow.
How can we find inner peace and connection in a chaotic world?
By going within and using your inbuilt wonderful tools Source provided you with, like the breath. The deeper you breathe, the more you relax, even in a chaotic surrounding. Just close your eyes, let go. And letting go is the same as accept. And in neutrality, become okay with whatever is around you. You can have control over what is within you. If you find peace inside, nothing from outside can touch you. And of course, you have to exercise that. It's not just one time you do it and meditate and then you have it. You have to practice that to become it and be it. And if you are inner peace, love, compassion, pureness, simplicity, truth, then you are, according to magnetic law in your universe, creating that in the outside as well. It might need some time to manifest on the outside, but you are always, as the whole universe is just the mirror of what is inside of you, you are creating your outside, and it is mirroring back to you what still needs healing within you, where something still is not yet in order and wants to be healed and asks for your inner work on it.
How can we have meaningful spiritual conversations with others?
If you are meaningful with yourself in your own inner world, inside, inwards, with your own inner self, then of course you will always also create that in the outside with whomever you talk. But if you really want to create something like that, then it would be a great idea to meditate before you enter a conversation. Even better to meditate with that person together, just for a few moments. Close the eyes, breathe deeply, connect with your heart, focus on your heart, maybe even touch it to guide the energy towards where your focus is, where your hand is, where your heart is. In your heart, there is the connection to your soul, your higher self, with spirit's spark in it, of source, all that is, and define with the other person you want to converse with before you start. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to exchange? And that also takes some self-discipline to not just throw out your anger and frustration upon the other about this or that in your society or your life that you dislike, but thinking positively and constructively about how Could we change that? How can I better handle my difficult emotions, my anger or my sadness or my frustration? You see, there is a lot you can do if you go more consciously into talking and conversing and exchanging with other fellow humans.
People ask, do aliens have a concept of God or spirituality, and how does it compare to ours?
The positive, angelic ETs have a concept of source, all that is. To them, it's not a person, a personified image or figure of a god with maybe a long beard and white hair in a nightgown, like you sometimes like to imagine God. And it's neither the gods of your religions that are all man made and distorted, sometimes on purpose to further the ruling forces and to make you behave and obey and believe and think in a way that is good for them but not for yourself. They have, the angelics and ETs, a concept of what is really a spiritual concept of the bigger consciousness, the bigger force, the force behind everything that is divine, love light, loving consciousness, intelligence, compassion. And they all know that they do not have a soul, but they are their soul because they already did their inner work. That's why they are more advanced, coming from a higher dimension. They already united and melted more into their soul and higher self, their higher aspects, and do not only live from out of their egotistical ego mind or ego structure, which vanishes and fades away in higher dimensions, luckily. And the other ones that were created by the so-called fallen ones, we would prefer to call them the descended ones because they wanted that experience. And that's why they descended into lower dimensions to live out their lust for greed, power, fame, money, and whatever. It is the Nephilim and their creations of races like the Greys, the Orion Greys, the Zeta Reticuli Greys, and the Reptilians, the Draco Reptilians, that do not have a soul or are not part of a soul complex. That's why they abduct humans and try to steal their soul or split the soul via traumatic abductee experiences, and then create clones that they animate with a small percentage of the stolen soul energy and stuff like that. So there is up to the sixth or seventh dimension still some kind of polarity working, as you have the so-called dark forces and the light forces, and you have the side that following the law of one, the one infinite creator source and what it created and wanted and wished for its creation and creations, including you and the human race, humanity. And of course, there is the other side that is following what the Asians call the left-hand path.
What is the fate of humanity, And can you help us avoid self-destruction?
You decide your own fate. What is kind of meant in the best positive, constructive way by Source for you is that you evolve and grow and become a grown-up humanity and race and body, mind, spirit complex as the invisible structure of your whole microcosm is like that. If you choose the path of destruction, that is up to you. But we already stated several times that it will not be allowed to destruct this planet Earth, because that happened in other evolution cycles, in other star systems, and Source allowed it to see what's coming from that. And as nothing good was coming from that, it is no longer allowed to explode a planet by destructive, warmongering, egotistical races that are not yet ready to evolve into a higher state of service to others. So we can help you with bringing true knowledge back and giving you your true history, because you are lied about your own history. That's also a factor keeping you in a limited and low consciousness frequency. And we provide you with exercises and reminders through many people serving, even with their YouTube channels, or however, writing a book, giving a course, sharing information, or sharing good tools like breath work and meditation and inner work, working on your chakra system. So there is a lot of help awaiting you and ready at your hand if you only choose that. As this is the world of free will, it is up to yourself what you choose. So choose wisely. We see a bright future for humanity, but not all will choose that. Some want something different. And as Source is unconditional love, it allows even that, so that these beings and entities can have their experiences and hopefully learn from that. Who is not willing to learn and grow and change will in the end be also returned back to Source, but without an essence or soul essence of experience and learning and growth. It is like in the metaphor Yeshua used in one of your Bible stories, where he gave out talents that was some kind of coin at that time to several people. Some worked with that. And there was one guy who just dug it up in the soil, and when Yeshua came back, he just handed it back to him without having done anything with the talent. And interesting that a coin is called a talent, because nowadays with talent you associate gifts and abilities. So you have a wide open, more open understanding and view about that can teach you symbolically and metaphorically a lot. So these ones who are not willing to change and work on themselves for the greater good of all will be returned to Source and will just be molded in the all and start a new cycle of soul journeys wherever in the universe. They are given a second chance if they only go for it.
How do we heal from past wounds or trauma to grow spiritually?
By facing it with love and compassion and not suppressing it, by digging deep and allowing the feelings of being hurt or traumatized or scared or whatever the feeling was. And the breath is a very good tool, even used in trauma psychology, to breathe through an experience, an emotion, and not stop when it gets too much and you feel overwhelmed and you feel like running away. To sit with the emotion and breathe through it until it fades away. Usually, a difficult and strong emotion, whatever it is, flows like water, because energy behaves like water, through your whole system, through all your invisible bodies, and is processed on every level and within every subtle body. So if you kind of stop this process by going into fear and closing your heart and holding your breath, you attach to the negative emotion, you block it, and it cannot heal because you stop it in the process of flowing through you. That's why trauma psychology, working with breath, teaches the people to breathe through it, no matter how hard you think it is. If an emotion takes longer than a few minutes to flow through you, then you can know that it is attached to an older program, traumatic experience, or older feeling underneath that kind of what you know. It is more subliminal in the subconsciousness. And if you are triggered and attached to an older emotion, that is the cry of your bodily system, your soul, to go and heal that. Breathe through it, face it, and know that you always come out the other end of an experience like that better, stronger, taller, wiser, and more experienced. Because without experience, even the what you call bad ones, you cannot grow. You learn the most from the bad experiences and the mistakes you make. And as you are so into judgment, you judge mistakes as wrong and false and try to avoid them. How do you want to learn then? And how do you want to graduate for higher consciousness and the next dimension already awaiting you if you block the process in the flow and you don't face what's within you, calling, crying for your attention, your help, your healing power that is innate within you? That's why you are triggered. That's why you sometimes explode with a word someone else says, because you have a problem there. And that problem wants to be healed. And you are the only one who can heal it. You can always call in our assistance or the assistance of the violet ray by Saint Germain and the violet flame, transformative power and energy, and also Kuan Yin, the divine feminine, who rules the violet ray of transformation together with Ascended Master Saint Germain. You can also call in Archangel Raphael with his wonderful emerald green ray of love and compassion governing your heart chakra. You can also call in white light from source itself, because you are the being that has the direct connection via the heart to source with no interference in between. No master, no guru, no priest, no teacher has to be in between you and source. Only if you allow someone in there, then your direct connection might be colored, abused, go astray, or be distorted. So that's why the Gnostics and also Yeshua told you, seek first and foremost the connection within your heart, the kingdom of heavens within you, which is nearer than hand and feet. It's in your heart.
How do we overcome spiritual doubts or reconcile conflicting beliefs?
This is again a duality question, because most people look at the problem on the one side of the hand, so to speak, and they focus on that, and by that they focus their energy into the negative and grow more of that. So to overcome that, you have to make kind of a change and a movement towards the solution and the positive, and focus your energy there to create more of that and grow the solution. So if you give in to doubt and allow doubt to drag you down into the cellars of the subconscious, full of fears and nightmares you are also programmed with since eons and many, many, many decades of your wrong time measurements, then you're giving up on yourself. And it's very hard for us to help you and reach you in that dark state of a clouded mind, surrounded by dark, heavy clouds of low frequency thoughts and emotions like frustration, hate, anger, sadness, and giving up or whatever. You have to move towards neutrality at least. This is not suppressing the negative, knowing very well that it is there, but it is your choice on what you focus, on the negative or on the positive. You should always use your free will and exercise it by choosing how you want to feel, how and what you want to think, because thoughts are not always coming and created by yourself. You are kind of in a soup of energy with your microcosmic field, and via resonance, negative thoughts can dock onto your system and bring some other negative friends and grow more and make themselves a comfortable space in your auric field. And then you're always grumpy and everything is false and it's always the others doing everything wrong. See, this kind of attitude and mindset is leading nowhere fruitful. So it's up to you. How do you want to feel? Don't you want to feel happy and more positive and enthusiast and curious? And define yourself. What do you want? Where do you want to go? And how do you want to feel? Because you create your reality by thought and emotion, by what you think and what you feel. That is vibrational energy you create and you send out as a sender into the universe. And of course, it brings back, according to magnetic law, energy of the same quality. So it's always you who's with the thumb on the button, and you can change your whole inner world, and by that change the outer world, change your inner feelings and your inner workings and thinkings. It's up to you. You are a mighty, powerful, divine soul incarnated in a human vessel, having earthly human experiences. If you remember that you are this mighty, powerful, divine being, then it's much easier to align with that and reconnect with that inside and follow a more fruitful, a happier, easier path of light and love, compassion that is much brighter than all the dark and negative thoughts you can also create if you want that.
Thank you very much, Elohim. Thank you very much, Gabriele. Now comes the very last question for today. How can we build a spiritual community or find like-minded people?
That is more or less already in your field, because that was exactly how the ancients in the Golden Age and the Lemurian times formed their fellowships and communities by being on the same wavelengths, on the same mindset, and uniting with like-minded people. You can find these people nowadays as well in following just your activities that you love, that make you happy, make you feel light and bright and enthusiastic. And if you follow your passion, you will attract magnetically like-minded people. But if you like, you can go to a spiritual course and assume that you will meet some spiritual others there that might or might not be of the same frequency than you are. The best method to protect yourself from negative influence and to attract what is meant for you and matches your frequency is to raise your frequency and be as happy and positive as you can. As the law of one says, you only need 51% positivity to graduate for your next evolutionary step, the ascension, shift, rapture, however you want to call that. So it happened like that already in ancient times. This pattern is, with the knowledge of that, still engraved in the whole field and in your own microcosm. That is your own Akashic record that contains the information of everything. So that's why you nowadays feel drawn to farm communities, because you already did that in the so-called path, although this is all happening parallel right here and now. And the influences between the parallel lives and worlds and timelines, they are flowing like water back and forth. And you get impulses and you feel drawn to this or to that area. You want to make a move. You want to live closer and nearer to nature and leave the city, or whatever is kind of birthed within you as something, as an impulse from your souls, remembering where they come from and where they want to return to. That is the way how you will build new communities and will form different societies, and that is already part of the so-called fifth dimension or new earth that already exists, and you are creating by your dreams, your positive dreams, and you are kind of contributing with your life and your alignment to light, love, compassion, and positive, and service to others or service to all, to that new earth, how it will be structured in more detail, because every one of you is contributing to that with his positive wishes and thoughts and emotions. So if you ask yourself, how would I love to live? Well, there already comes up a lot of impulses like images, ideas, thoughts, and feelings. Some want to live in futuristic cities, others want to live in nature and be more in touch with nature and animals. It's up to you. What is in your mind a life that you esteem fulfilled and happy and worthwhile? Which quality, which energy, which emotions should that life have for you? Wow. They stopped right there, didn't even say goodbye, so I have to say goodbye. Um, well, that was interesting. A lot of stuff that I could have never brought together like that. Thank you so much, Hans, and for all these wonderful questions, because they bring out kind of the wisdom and the different viewpoint from the Elohim, which I have maybe a piece here and there, but I can never bring that together like that. I'm really, wow, I'm blown, mind blown.
We traveled a lot of questions. Thank
Yeah,
you very much.
was intense, but I liked it. So thank you very, very much. Thank you, and thank all the viewers. And I hope everybody can find something in there to be inspired and maybe make a new choice or make a change in your own life, your thinking, or your emotional state to the better.